Hi all, in this video we'll connect and configure H2 database with Spring Boot application. Here we'll be using Spring Boot 3.x version and we'll be using all the latest features. So what we'll achieve in this video? So first I will show the step to import the H2 database on the Spring Boot application. Then later on I will do some configurations to connect the H2 database with the Spring Boot applications, and next I will write down the few of the controller so that we can add or read some record from the H2 database. Lastly, I will be hitting some API, so that read API and the write API, so that we can push some record on the H2 database and we will get some record from that database. And lastly, I will show you how we can access H2 consoles and how to pass the database from the UI. So from the UI we will access like H2 consoles and we can do some kind of update insert operations, and all the source code is given in this GitHub link and it is provided on the description section. So let's get started. So before going ahead with the video, I request you please subscribe to Deep Developer YouTube channels, where I make videos on Java, Spring Boot, microservices, interview questions. So if you have any issue, meanwhile you can ask me on the comment section, and also I will suggest to code along with me. So let's go to start.spring.io to create a Spring Boot project. So here I will be using Java as a language and build type as a Maven, and I will use 3.5.0 as in Spring Boot versions. So I will make this group ID as com.deepdeveloper, and artifact ID I can write it as H2 database connect, and demo project you can description you can write like configure and connect H2 in memory database with Spring Boot. And the package name I will be writing as in com.deepdeveloper H2 database connect, and the packaging type and Java 17 will use 17 or more than that. So first as we are creating a Spring Boot application, as I shown in the previous time frame, also we will be creating some APIs as well. So as we are dealing with the web application, we need to write and add the dependency called Spring Web, so that it includes all the RESTful API things, and it uses it will give Tomcat as an embedded by default server. We no need to configure ourselves. And also as we will be dealing with H2 database, so in my previous video I used mostly MySQL database. So on that reason we have connected the MySQL driver, right? So here we don't have any physical driver, so we will be using H2 database. So H2 database is an in-memory database, means when you start the Spring Boot application, that time only that database will be created, and once you stop that application, the database will be lost, means stable database, everything will be got lost. And we can access this from the UI as well, as I shown the few minutes ago. Also on the UI we can get that like consoles. So I will get to you on the step by step what are the details. First let's add this H2 database. And when we use this H2 database, like in MySQL database we usually used when we are dealing with any kind of applications, and we want to store this data after if anything happens in the application, whether we stop the application, data should be stored. But in the H2 database, for the small kind of application, if we are doing any some small project or some small POC kind of things, or college project, that kind of you can use this for the demo purpose as well as for the testing purpose as well. Now so that is done. Database we have. Now we need to have some kind of SQL Spring Data JPA we will be having, so that it can directly add the records to the tables. So we no need to create our SQL custom query, no need to use select query, star query. It will automatically add this data into the database. We just pass the object and the object will be converted to entity and it will be passed to the database. So and we will be using Lombok, so that we no need to create a like getter setter. By default we just use the annotations. So let's generate this project and open in IDE. So I have generated this and I have opened in the IDE. Let me show you that IDE. All the source code you will get from this GitHub repo. Link is given in the description. So if we see that go to this pom.xml file, so we are using 3.5 and the h2 database, com.h2 database, and make sure the scope is mentioned as runtime. Okay, and the other dependencies Lombok, data JPA. So now let's go to this application.properties file and let's see what is there. So by default we have like application name. If you want to write it, don't write it, it is up to you. Now as we are using h2 database, right? So that database would be present in some kind of URL, right? So for that reason we need to mention that URL as well. First let's mention how to mention that data source URL. So we have key like spring dot data source dot URL. Is using JDBC Java database connectivity URL for this database. So previously we used first we will be using JDBC. Now previous case we used MySQL. Now it is not a MySQL. This is h2 database, and we are using in-memory database. So we use MEM, and now we can mention our like database name. So I will be mentioning as a test DB, right? So the database URL is we got it. Now what about URL we got, but we need to have some kind of like ID password or the user name and password to connect with the database, right? So for that we use spring.data source username. We can write it anything. So I will write like username as an username only, and password spring.data source PASSWORD password. I'll be keeping as password only. So database is I connected to the database, and username password is I got it. Now next step is what, as it is not a MySQL database, so we'll be accessing this from the console, right? So for that reason we need to enable this console so that we can access. So for that we have like spring dot h2 dot console dot enabled, whether to enable the console or not. So we can use enabled equal to true, right? Now console is enabled, but we need to assign some kind of path so that we can access the UI. So previously I used h2 console. Now we will be mentioning that path also. So h2 dot console, so path is h2 console. Now path also designed, and now we have like few more few more kind of configuration is there, like if you want to keep the traces or not, and if you want to console setting to enable others so that other cannot like access that. So those kind of configuration are also there. If you just go to the spring dot h2 dot console, here it is that whether to enable the traces or not. I default make it as in false, right? So I'll just copy the same things and paste, and setting. After the setting we will do whether the web allow other or not. So this is for the security, so that no from the remote no one can access this. So this is done. Now like there is a one like JPA configuration also there, like whatever the tables we will be creating. So do we want that should be automatically created or not? So for that we can mention the hibernate mode, it is update. So if it is not present, of course it will be not present, so it will be automatically updated. And if it is present, then it will not give any changes. So by default it will be always be creating that new case because we are updating. Now this configuration is done. So configuration is done. Now we need to connect we need to run this application to check whether this connection is work or fine or not. So before that, to test that whether we are able to write or read from the database or not, H2 database. So we'll be creating these two API. So one API is to get all the student details, and another API is to add the student details. So let me create that. So let me explain you what I have created. So I have created one student entity, and I have added ID, name and age. So using the entity annotation, and data is for getter, setter, no constructor argument, like all field arguments. So for this reason we have used data, and we have used an repository interface, so that it is extending JPA repository, passing the student and integer. So I will make a separate video where I will be using all the CRUD operations. I will be creating a real-time student application using the H2 database. So this is just for the connection with the H2 database. This motive of this video is that to check the connection. So just I have created for this, and one service class also created, and I have added use add to add a student, and use get all to get all the student from the database. And if you see the controller as well, so I have created the two API. So one is to save a record, and one is to get all the records. So it is you can watch the next video. So please subscribe for that, where I will be using all the CRUD operation. Now I will run this application, and I will test whether how you can access it. So let me run the application. So I will go to here and click on run. So we see this application is started. Let me show you that the started connect H2 database. So in port, Tomcode is running on port 880. So before to this terminal, you can see H2 console is available at H2 console / and database available is at MEM test DB. How this is coming? If you go to this application.properties, so here we have mentioned the path H2 console, right? So that's why it is coming as H2 console, and the database JDBC H2 MEM test DB. Here it is that URL. So we'll be going to this path H2 console. How that path will be accessed? Whatever the port / and this path. So I will be using localhost 8080 / H2 console. So we'll be go any of the browser. Let's go to the Chrome, open a new tab. So local host 8080 / console. Let's enter it. So it is loading. As you see, this console is open, and this JDBC URL you can copy it and paste it from if it is not by default, if it is not faced, so you can go to this console and you can copy it, Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V, and this driver class, everything that will be automatically fetched from the Spring Boot. So I that's why I did not mention specifically driver configuration on the application.properties file. A username I have kept it as an username only. Let me show you that username is username and password is password. So let me write a password, PASSWORD. Then now click on test connection. So it, connection is successfully. Now let's connect PASSWORD. Now if we do connect, so we can see this student object that is created, student table is created, and it is the in-memory database. So you can will say, so it will be dropped or deleted once we disconnect the Spring Boot application. So let's click on the student, and let's say what are the fields that student table has: ID, name and age. If you go to this our Spring Boot applications, we see that student have ID, name and age, right? These three records are there. So as of now, let's run the statement. As of now there is no record, so let's create add a record. So this is the API to add a record. You can just do post and add, and name and age you can put it. So let me click on the send. So it is request is showing sending. So this request will be stored in this H2 database, in memory database. So we'll wait for a few minutes, let the request to be completed. Why it is taking time? Because it is due to the some kind of our hardware issues as well. So if your machine is first, then it will be automatically within a few seconds it will be added on the database. So we see one record is added, so click on run. So one name Subhadeep is added. Let's add another record. So Nitin and age 21. Click on send. So we see second record is also added. So let's click on run and see two records is added. Now we have added the details. Now let's fetch the details from the DB. So that is also like a two-way we are seeing. So we have one like get like all API. So it will be returning all the details. Like click on the send. The request is sending. Let's wait for a few minutes. Yeah, so we are able to fetch the records as well. So as of now we have connected on the database, H2 database, and we have fetched and add details like read write operation is also working fine. Now this motive of this video is already done. So next video I'll be creating the CRUD operation or the restful operations using that H2 database. So I will be creating a student type of applications, and so please subscribe to the channel so for that, and if you face any issue you can ask me on the comment section. So thank you for watching the video.